On a freezing winter night, an old woman opened her door to find two shivering puppies outside. With a kind heart, she took them in, wrapping them in blankets, never imagining what was about to unfold. By morning, her quiet cabin in the woods was surrounded. Police cars flashing lights, officers shouting commands. The villagers whispered, "Why had the police come? What had those dogs brought with them?" The truth would leave an entire town shocked, and her life changed forever. Stay with us until the end, because you won't believe what really happened inside that cabin. Before we start, hit like, share, and subscribe. And drop in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The old woman's name was Margaret, and for years, her life had followed the same slow, silent rhythm. She lived alone in a small wooden house at the edge of town, surrounded by tall pine trees and long stretches of untouched snow. Winter stayed longer here than anywhere else, wrapping everything in white and muting the world outside. Most days, the only sounds she heard were the wind brushing against the walls and the ticking clock in her living room. Margaret woke up before sunrise every morning, not because she had to, but because her body was used to it. She would make a simple breakfast, usually tea and dry toast, then sit near the window and watch the snow fall. Sometimes she spoke out loud, not to anyone in particular, just to fill the silence. Her husband had passed away many years ago, and her children lived far away, busy with lives of their own. Phone calls were rare. Visits were even rarer. Despite the loneliness, Margaret was kind. Neighbors knew her as the woman who waved from her porch and baked extra bread, just in case someone needed it. She never asked for much. In fact, she believed that if you stayed quiet and didn't bother the world might leave you alone in return. That night, the storm was worse than usual. Snow piled up against her windows, and the cold slipped through even the thick wooden walls. Margaret added another log to the fireplace and wrapped herself tighter in her old wool shawl. She remembered thinking how quiet everything felt. Too quiet. No cars. No footsteps. Just the storm. She had no idea that this calm was about to break. At that moment, Margaret was simply an old woman trying to get through another cold night. She didn't know that before the sun rose, her quiet life would be pulled into something dangerous and unexpected. And she certainly didn't know that one small act of kindness would soon place her at the center of a situation that would bring police cars, flashing lights, and fear to her doorstep. For now, though, she sat alone, unaware that her life was about to change forever. As the night grew deeper, the storm outside Margaret's house became louder and more unforgiving. The wind howled through the trees, bending their frozen branches until they creaked like they might snap at any moment. Snow slammed against the windows in thick waves, as if someone was throwing handfuls of ice from the darkness. Margaret had lived through many winters, but something about this one felt different, harsher, angrier. She moved slowly across the room, checking the locks on the door and windows, a habit she had picked up after years of living alone. Everything was secure, yet unease settled in her chest. The power flickered once, then again, causing the lights to dim. Margaret paused, holding her breath, listening. When the lights steadied, she let out a quiet sigh and returned to her chair near the fire. Outside, the world was nearly invisible. The road leading to her house had disappeared under layers of snow, and the nearest neighbor was miles away. If something happened tonight, no one would know. That thought made her pull her shawl tighter around her shoulders. She tried to distract herself by knitting, but her fingers trembled slightly, and she dropped the needles twice. Then she heard something that didn't belong to the storm. At first, it was faint, almost lost beneath the wind. Margaret tilted her head, straining to listen. There it was again, a sound low and broken, like a cry being swallowed by the cold. She stood up slowly, her heart beginning to race. It could have been the wind, she told herself, or an animal passing by. But the sound came again. This time, it was clearer. A weak whimper. Margaret walked toward the front door, each step heavier than the last. Her mind filled with questions and warnings. It was dangerous to open the door at this hour. dangerous to